Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to another episode of the NFL show, where today we are going to be rounding up everything that happened over the weekend, where three of us, I think three of us got a win. One of us might have got absolutely demolished in the first quarter.
I heard it was.
Yeah. But then we will talk through that. We've got some talking points that have happened since then as well that we're going to go through, and then we're going to review the predictions. If you're watching this, you can see my smug face. And we will run through the predictions, what we predicted last week, and we've got some teams that these guys already know who we're going for. But I picked the hardest possible games to predict, which Rob plainly told me it was the horrible picks as well. So we've done that, but let's get into it. Before we get into that, don't forget, subscribe, bell, link in the description, all of the social medias for everyone. And it's just, I always go bang on about it. It takes up half the video. So let's go to Rob. I'm going to go to you first, because after last week's anger, you had a very positive turnaround. Talk us through the game and what you thought were talking points and good points about
it. It started like a complete opposite to last week. Like I said, last week we had a incredible first drive and then it stopped. We had a pretty terrible first drive this time around. I thought, here we go. On their first drive, they went for it on fourth down in their own half, which, I don't know, I think, first drive, first quarter, you're in your own half and you go for it on fourth down. And I saw a little bit of maybe disrespect for maybe our defense had been this year, and obviously they had confidence that they could get it, and we got a big stop on that. So, that was pretty good. And our defense stepped up all the way through the game from there. We had 4 fumble recoveries, a pick 6. We had some big stops on third down, some, important stops as well. And, so far this season, we've been the 9th best running defense, which, sort of looking back, I think, we have been quite good against the run, but we're 31st in passing defense, which is, terrible. But our defense all the way through the game was, can't really fault them at all. To keep a team to 2 field goals, you can't really complain. And I don't want to be too critical about anything. I think when my cat's just jumping up at the door, sorry. When you beat a team 43-6, it's hard to come out and be critical of them. But I'm going to be. Not the team, but my favourite person, Dirk Cotter. We scored 43 points, but when you look at, 15 of those were field goals. At least 2 of those were fumble recoveries in excellent starting field position. And to come away from those with just 3 points was, pretty disappointing. Starting such good field position and not capitalise. We did that against the Cowboys. Got a couple of interceptions that put us in good field position. We did end up running out with a 20-point lead against them and still threw that away, so you can never have enough points. And another 6 points was a pick 6, so we scored 3 touchdowns. There was some, pretty vanilla, boring, dubious play calls, as, Dirk Cotter does. So, on the whole, I was happy, but I don't think we did perform offensively. Still the best that we could have done. I think punching a few of those field goals in for touchdowns, especially with the starting field position. And yeah, that's basically it really. But I think it showed that what a lot of Falcons fans believe is that we're a good team that's not performed since the season that we got to the Super Bowl. And, we've been pretty poor and average, well, between poor and average, I'd say, since then. And, there is a good team in there, which is, ready to ready to come out. And you don't beat anyone 43-6 if you're a bad team. But we're just not consistent, and so hopefully this week when we play the Saints again, we can do them over this time.
So the question I've got for you is: you talk about since that Super Bowl loss, is it a mentality? Is there a blockage of mentality with the team? Is it down to the coaches? What do you think is stopping them for going back to the form that they had prior to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think, players, get older, like we were speaking about Sheffield Wednesday the other day. And like I said to you then, we just had a player sent off as well.
Shame.
Players get older, and, as you get older, your body doesn't work as well as you want it to. But I think, we've got a new offensive coordinator. When Shanahan went to the 49ers, that didn't really work out in the first season. He improved in the second season, but not enough for him to keep his job.
Mm-hmm.
We've then got another new offensive coordinator, and obviously, it takes time for an offensive coordinator to come in, and they have stuck with, a lot of, the same sort of offense and schemes as what Shanahan put in play, but just not as, not to the same extent. And I just, coaching, I think, has been the main issue for us. Turnover of staff, maybe hiring the wrong staff and just turning staff over. And it's every couple of seasons we've got new staff in with new ideas and trying to implement new things in. So, I mean, this season with a new GM and head coach coming in, I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to, clear the deck of staff and get, good nucleus, well, hopefully a good nucleus of staff in who can drive us forward.
Well, so you're very positive this week to a certain extent, which is quite good to hear. Let's go with someone who might not be as positive. Fred, just getting a last minute field goal to win the game. How did you think the Pats played during that game, and what went wrong and what went well for you guys this past week?
Yeah, so I'm at a little bit of a loss here, and I'll talk you through why. So first and foremost, it's the matchup between the team who've conceded the least penalties, which surprisingly is us, and the most in the Cardinals. We lost the ball straight away on our first drive. We couldn't handle the blitz, and that was throughout the whole game as well. It wasn't just first up we were struggling with the blitz for whatever reason. We just couldn't deal with it. And when Newton had the ball patted away on third down, and then we conceded a touchdown pretty much straight after, I thought, God, we're going to absolutely murdered it here. It's a weird one because I watched that first two quarters, and it's going to sound very strange when I explain as well, but Newton had to start running the ball basically is the long and short of it, which created this illusion for a few minutes. I thought, God, he's a dual threat again. This is brilliant. He's not fumbling the ball as well. Then I sort of, you look at the stats, and he'd thrown 37 yards in the first half and run two plays, and you just think, God, I have such a limited expectation of our offense now. And I think it's probably the same for a lot of Pats fans, just to sort of close off on Cam. So did go on about him in the offense a lot. He ended up finishing 9 of 18 for 84 yards and 9 carries for 46 yards, which is not good enough. It's not going to win you a lot of games. To be fair, it was his rush that set up the winning field goal, and he did some good bits in the last drive, but they were the first good bits he'd done all game. But I'm at a loss as to what to make of our offense. I thought we'd made some good strides in the last few weeks. I think that all sort of came crashing down to earth again this week. That said, I do think actually we did quite a lot of good stuff, and I'll talk about that as well. So after going 10-0 down, we sort of pretty much switched on to the fact Murray was still carrying his shoulder injury, and he wasn't really a threat when running. And as soon as we clocked onto that, we set ourselves up very well. I mean, give you a bit of an idea, and obviously a lot of people, as I'm sure you all know, Murray, does run a lot of yards in a game, but he was -2 rushing yards after 2 quarters. When he did start running, he ran himself out of bounds away from any real danger. There was no one near him plenty of times. He wasn't really going for first downs. The one, that I think really, for me, if I was a Cardinals fan, was sticking my throat, as he ran about 11. He needed 15 yards for the first down on the third down. He ran 11 of those yards, probably had a 50-50 shot of making the first down, and just slid. And that's not normal behaviour in that situation. I think quite clearly he was injured. So I guess in reality, where I'm at, I'll talk about the good stuff now. So it was a typical old school back to the wall Belichick performance, very solid defensively after the first quarter. The special teams were excellent, and it has to be said. I think Stephon Gilmore, in spite of 2 penalties against him, dealt with DeAndre Hopkins really well on the whole as well. Josh Bailey, the punter, kicked well again, and Nick Folk continues to be Mr. Reliable. He's at 2 match-winning field goals in the last few seconds in recent weeks, and he's 18 out of 18 for his last few kicks. I think it's a poor team, and I think Sunday really highlighted that, in spite of, we've had a couple of okay performances recently, but it is a very well coached poor team. You've got some, Josh McDaniel's been there 20 years as offensive coordinator. So Belichick's probably one of the best coaches ever in NFL. So it's a poor team, but a well coached poor team, and they're probably punching above their weight player ability wise because of this coaching team.
So do you see any positives moving to the end of the season? Do you think they can pick up, or do you think this is becoming a none and void sort of thing? Or what are you thinking for the rest of the game?
I don't really know, because to go from throwing, I think it was 365 yards the week before to 84, whatever it was this week. It doesn't make the Cardinals are okay. They're a good side, but then you shouldn't lose 270 yards worth of field in a week. They seem to do well against running quarterbacks, even though obviously Murray was injured. Obviously, he did well against the Ravens as well defensively. I don't know. The divisional games are quite important. Obviously, we're playing you guys in a few weeks. Is it this week? Maybe. And then obviously we've got the Bills as well. I think we've got a fairly kind run in, but it's just you don't know what offense is going to turn up. So yeah, probably the most confused I've been all season actually about the side, really, because it was a bit of a smash and grab, but at the same time they probably just about deserve to win. It was a bit funny, really.
So I know at one point you've got to play Miami. I know that, and that's when you're going to lose again. But you've got the Chargers coming up, then you've got the Rams, Dolphins, Bills, and then probably the easiest game of the season, the Jets, at the end of it. So you've got a good run-in moving forward. So you've got a difficult game. We'll talk about the Chargers a little bit later on, to what their head coach has come out and said after their game. Before we get onto the losing side of losers this week, I'm going to do I'm going to be very open and honest with everyone, right? I might have gone a bit nuts with all the stats that I wrote down. We need to make sure I get everything. So I watched I think it's for the second time, I properly sat down and watched Miami. And I wasn't impressed that much from Fitzpatrick. I thought when he needed to get stuff done, he got it done. But there was so many mistakes in the catching department, in the wide receivers. The running backs weren't really running. They wasn't pulling anything together, and that's one of the things that really sort of got me annoyed. The one thing that I got really well was in the first quarter, Brandon Jones made a sack on 3rd down to make them, and I mean, they were 3rd and goal, I think it was, and he made a sack just so that they didn't get, and if he'd thrown it a little bit earlier, the Jets, they could have got a touchdown, but he didn't. I think as well at the same time, we got a 54-yard field goal that it was Jason Saunders that got his 7th field goal this season, and that was more, and he's got 50 plus yards, 3 from 3 now this season. There you go. There you go. Some useless stats for everyone out there today. See, I've got more useless stats going on. Don't worry about that. Excellent touchdown as well by Devontae Adams. The pass was absolutely, was it Devontae Park? One of them two. Absolute great run and great pass. Just before that, in the third quarter, there was a catch by Miami, which was ruled complete and then was reviewed and it was ruled complete. But when you actually watch it, it was incomplete, which then after that, 2 throws after that, they got a touchdown to sort of kill the game off. Miami got 2 interceptions that day as well. Xavier Howard's, who's got his 7th of the season, which makes him joint with Sam Madison as the only Dolphins player in the team history to have at least 7 interceptions in multiple seasons. See, another random fact that you lot don't need to know about, but I found it. But for me, I think I was listening to the commentary and listening to what they were saying, and they were saying with Fitzpatrick, the way that he played, would you bring Tua straight into the team? And to me, absolutely. How did he say? How did they clear that off the line? For me, it's one of those where I think Tua needs to come in to get reps now. And I think at the same time, we need someone who can run the ball. And that's one of the blatantly big things that I can see with Miami this season is they're not running. And when they do run, it's just bloody awful. So that's my only criticism. And I think defensively was superb. There's nothing. I know it's the Jets. I know that we could have done better, but at the same time, 2 interceptions to stop them as well at the same time. For me, we got the Bengals next week. Still no Joe Burrow. So for me, I'm still thinking Miami will win it. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not getting too overconfident, but I think we'll probably win the Super Bowl. Just about, I think. But let's get on. Let's move on. And let's talk to someone I would like to apologize before we go on, as all 3 of us are very happy. But unfortunately, you will not be. Let's talk about Tampa Bay. Talk us through it.
Well, I am fairly happy because we only lost by 3. And
yes,
I'm not sure if sitting here I can tell you how we lost by 3. We had a wide receiver in Tyreek Hill catch 13 for 269 and 3 touchdowns. And I haven't looked, but I guarantee there's not QBs this week that threw for 269 and 3 touchdowns. He was 209 in the first half, which is phenomenal. Yeah, and I was watching it, and I don't know how the end score got where it did, to be honest with you, having watching it, because we could have lost that game by 20. Mm-hmm. We won the second half, which we've lost the second half in any game. So we're making adjustments at the right stage. The problem is we're not starting well. We were 17 behind in the first quarter against the reigning Super Bowl champions. There isn't a team out there, I don't think, that would overcome that. So to get to within 3 is promising. Antonio Brown, we talked about him the other week, and how he drew targets. He only had 2 receptions this week. He looked Godwin, I think, had 8, and Evans had 6 and 2 touchdowns. So it looks like we went back to that core of Bucs team and the mentality they've got. It's a strange one. Our defense, we spoke before about the Green Bay game. We came at them from every angle. We had disguised blitzes after disguised blitzes, people coming from all different angles. We haven't seen that since. And I don't know whether that's deliberate and whether we're not putting those disguised blitzes on video for somebody else to pick up on, and we're trying to scrape into the playoffs and keep those back in our locker. The danger of that is you don't make the playoffs, and I don't think there's no excuse for not doing that. So I think we have more to offer, and I think there's stuff in our locker that we're not using yet. That's what I believe. That's what I hope anyway, because we can't start 17 and 0 against any team in one quarter of football. It's scary.
So the question I have for you is the one thing I picked up, and especially on commentary, what they were saying and what everyone was saying as well, was there was certain times of the game where the Bucs tried to turn the Brady passes and throws into his old style, New England Patriots style of doing it, where he would get Gronk open, or there'd be certain plays that were New England. I think we talked about it last week as well, didn't we? Where we said, do they need to adapt it to New England style Tom Brady? Then they're trying to do their own style. Do you think that they need to, after the performance? What really stood out?
Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians' schemes. Look at this, what's going on? Rob's just caught up, has he?
Reddit have just scored. Lucas Jow. Carry on.
Future Ballon d'Or winner.
Rob's going to take his shirt off mid-podcast. Mate, when they score, you can take it off, swing around your head. Go on. So Arians runs a very distinct offense. There is very little motion at the line of scrimmage. It's set that way to disguise what play we've got and what we're coming out with. The problem with that is it gives a quarterback very little read because you can't tell with your own man and zone and what the coverage is without picking up what the defense is following. If you look through Arians' previous history with some very good quarterbacks, Andrew Luck, Brady now, Winston last year, their first year under him has always been a struggle because of the offense system he uses. We did mix it up second half. We had running backs popping out wide, coming back in. We had Godwin in the slot, would swap sides. We used that motion to give Brady a read at certain times, and it certainly helped. As I say, we won the second half. We made that adjustment as we needed to. For me, we were just very predictable on the offensive side of the ball. We'd run first down. I think it was something like 83% of the time. We ran first down. We picked up 2-3 yards. We then had 2 throwing plays. And we're going into then 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, as opposed to picking up 3rd and 4s and 3rd and 2s and giving us some short down stuff. So we're making it very hard for ourselves. And even sitting watching it was very predictable. And we're just guys sat on the sofa with a can of beer, right? Those guys that are studying video week in, week out, that know those percentages, that are paid to know those percentages, they're going to know what we're doing if I know what we're doing, that's for sure. So it's I think we need to mix it up a little bit more.
That's quite standard Brady, though, isn't it? I mean, I remember years of him just always running the first down, hand off to Sonny Michel, try and get 5 or 6 yards, go again. Like, that's been him for quite a long time, hasn't it?
Run second down, grab another 4 yards, give yourself a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 3, rather than playing a 3rd and 8 all the time. The first quarter, we were 3 and outs. And they're putting up 75-yard touchdowns on one play, 10 seconds, job done. You need to retain the ball at that stage. You need to grind it out. You need to wear their defense down. It's just too predictable at the minute. So, but he got better. We got the man in motion in the second half, gave Brady a read of the defense, and we started picking out plays to our regular, reliable receivers, and it come off.
So at least there's positives, and there was positives because I remember watching the game, and I did say that there's a lot more for me when I was watching it. When I said it to you as well, that I could see that there was a lot more positives moving forward as well. So at least there is positives for you guys as well going forward.
Can I just ask a quick question to Dan? Just touching on something last week, right? It's talked about the Chiefs last week, and I only watched the first quarter and a bit of the game, Tampa game, but. Again, you'll know a bit better here.
But I nearly gave up at that stage as well, Fred.
But why do the Chiefs keep having close, in terms of points, close finishes? Because it does seem to happen a lot. And obviously, they tend to blow away teams and then sort of lose ground later on. What's your take on it? Because obviously, you probably have best for you this week with all that.
They give up points. I think their secondary is not wonderful. As I say, we won the second half 17-7. Wherever that was them taking their foot off the gas or what, a little bit, I don't know. But second half, I don't forget we won the second half 17-7 and we had 2 interceptions in the third quarter. We gave the ball away twice and still won that half. We sussed their offense. I think that motion bit gave us that better read. That really helped throws if we're playing 3 and 8s and 2 and 8s. It helps us pick that out. We also stopped them. We found a way we basically double covered Tyreek Hill. We then double covered Travis Kelce because he went for 82 yards as well. And basically said, we're going to match you up across the field. If you find one of your other receivers, great. But these 2 ain't having the ball and we'll take our chances with everybody else. There was a play in the third quarter. I think he threw it to Mecole Hardman. And it was a blown coverage. Hardman had 15 yards in all directions, stood on about the 45, and he'd have walked in from there with no one getting close to him. And Mahomes overthrew him. He overthrew an empty man by substantial distance, which was a let-off. He even tweeted out later on, how the hell did I miss him? He tweeted today, obviously, after he'd seen the video himself. But yeah, we got under pressure. We've got a very young secondary. It's our weakest point, but we double covered the two threats and took our chances. And yeah, on another day, he'd have hit Hardman. He'd have walked in. They'd have had Samuel Watkins was only back from injury, fully fit. He might have had a better one-to-one matchup. You've got to take your chances and get your luck when you can. We almost scraped through that game with something. But you can score points against the Chiefs. We said all along, I think one of the first pods we said, Mark said, is there a way of stopping them? And we all agreed they are beatable. You can get at them and you can score points against them. The Raiders have proved that. They've put up 72 points against the Chiefs this year.
Because I'm just wondering if they're going to come unstuck in the playoffs because they let teams back into games. And, if they lose a game now, it doesn't really matter. But this is a consistent theme with them, no matter how good they are. And you can't do that in a game which matters, really, can you? It doesn't matter so much.
They did last year. They won all 3 games from behind in the playoffs. And substantially behind in some of them. They're a team that have the ability to turn a game around, I think. We've said that as well. Yeah, they've always given up points, even last year. But they hang in there. They need to hurt other teams. Can they always stop you enough and score enough? That comes down to each game, I guess. But yeah, if we'd have only had 1 interception, not 2 in that game, we'd have scored a touchdown with that drive, we'd have won that game by 4, not lost it by 3. Small margins, right? The best teams make their own luck, I guess, at times. They're a very good team, making a lot of luck in that respect. So a team can beat them. The Raiders have proved that. Teams are getting close to that. But I'd still expect them to win more than they lose.
Okay, then. Right, let's move on to some talking points that we had over the weekend. So Ezekiel Elliott. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys versus Washington. Ezekiel Elliott. Since he signed, this is when I told you lot that I've done stats like an ESPN person. Here we go. So since he signed his $90 million 6-year contract, he's gone 181 yards and he's done an average of 3.9 yard a run, and he's got 5 touchdowns since he's signed his new contract. What is stopping the Cowboys? Is it him? Is it the play? I've seen a lot of different comments through different places and different people when they say, oh, it's down to the play calling. It's down to him not getting the ability to do stuff. Other people are saying, well, he's now got the money he wants and he's just sitting back on his laurels and not doing it. Rob, I'm going to go to you first because I don't know, because you haven't talked for a while, so I thought I'll let you. And it's half time, but it's half time. It's half time. What do you think?
I know that he's in a couple of my fantasy teams, and he's not really doing me any favors this season. And that's actually turned quite a generous offer down for him in one league as well, which I wish I'd could go back maybe. But he's 8th in total rushing yards this season, which isn't that bad. But he's only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. That ranks him 36 overall in rushing yards, which is not good enough for someone like Elliott, who people probably have down as maybe a top 5 back going into the season. He's had 5 fumbles, which is the first most, tied with Taysom Hill. And I think Elliott does go through these stages where he just can't keep hold of the ball, this season being one of them. I don't think he was too bad last season, but like the season before, it seems to go like a season where he can't keep hold of it, and then he'll not fumble it so much the next season, and then he'll keep fumbling it the next season, and it's like one season on, one season off. It's one of those things with them, I think. Obviously, the Cowboys have got some troubles, losing Dak Prescott, and they've got a few injuries on their offensive line as well, which is, can be a big thing for a running back if, people that you're wanting to block and open up holes for you are all injured and you're moving further down the depth chart. to people that aren't as competent, then that can obviously affect your game as a running back. But then when you look at Tony Pollard coming in, who's averaging nearly 5 yards per carry, when Elliott's averaging 2.9, then you've got to say, well, how come our franchise running back is only getting 2.9 and his backup is getting, I think he's actually on 4.9. So Tony Pollard's averaging 2 extra yards per carry on average. And, Pollard is behind the same quarterback. He's in the same game, behind the same offensive line. So, yeah, he's not having a good season. Like I say, he's 8th overall in rushing yards, but every other stat that he's got is, down near the bottom. And I think Dallas will continue to use him in a workhorse role, especially while ever, mathematically they can still get in the playoffs, because you don't want to say, well, you've not performed this season, but you are a franchise running back and we know you've got it in you, but we're not going to play you. I think while ever they've got a mathematical chance to get in the playoffs, they're going to continue to use him. But I think if there comes a time where they can't get in the playoffs anymore, for me, I'd probably turn around and say, look, it's not happened for you this season. We want to protect you. Get fit again, get healthy again. You're going to see less snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just try again next season. I think his contract sort of dictates that, they can't get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're stuck with him, basically. And they've just got to hope that, is he going to improve this season? I doubt it. If, do you go this far into a season and then suddenly you flick a switch? Some players do, but they're stuck with him. They still see him as a franchise running back. Probably protect him, let Pollard, who seems to be doing better this season, get more snaps, and just hope that next season he improves.
Fred, you watched that game. I think we all watched it, but you were the one who predicted Washington to win. And we'll go through the predictions a little bit.
Yes.
You were the only one to get that done. What did you see in that Cowboys in that game? Do you think they had any positives in that match, or was it just that they could see all the negatives that they just need to build on?
To be honest, I only watched about 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
That's probably all you needed to watch, to be honest.
Straight to bed. Yeah, so I didn't see an awful lot there. I mean, just to, I guess, recap on Rob's points. I totally agree with a lot of that. I think you look at the Dallas Cowboys side that started in week 1 to now, and obviously mentioned the injuries in the offense, and it is markedly different. There's no, obviously, of course, there's no Dak Prescott as well. It's a very expensive 2 or 3.9 yards or per carry at the moment, doesn't he? Really, and it's not happening. I think there's a sort of variety of reasons for that, which aren't necessarily all his own fault. Or Ezekiel Elliott. He's obviously had off-field issues before, but there's no murmurs of that this time, is there? Again, while the playoffs are still a possibility, keep him going. But after that, like Rob said, you get him fit, get him in the right state of mind for next year, perhaps, and protect him, really. Unfortunately, with the Washington game, I didn't see very much of that at all. So, wrong person to ask.
No. I just wanted to see you. Dan,
I was very happy. Very happy,
you would be very happy. Dan, this is not one of the questions, but I just think it is. Is this a breakthrough moment for Washington? Is this they're going to get their season going? Or is this just one of those situations where they played an extremely crap team on the best day possible and they get the win?
Washington have a very good team, and if in 3 years they are not real contenders, I'd be very surprised. The only question I have about Washington is at quarterback, and I don't know what they do with it. So their defensive line, I believe, is every single one of them a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Antonio Gibson has stepped up this year. They've got Terry McLaurin, second or third year, very good ability player. Logan Thomas this year at tight end has proven he can be a catching back, not just a blocking tight end. My question is, where do they go with tight end? I can't see him going back to quarterback. Sorry, I can't see him to Dwayne Haskins. Everybody loves Alex Smith, and why not? But if you're going to be competing in 3 years and those guys are going to be stepping into their prime, Alex Smith is going to be on the way out and decline and down from there. So they're not going to have a decent enough draft pick, I don't think, this year to pick up someone. So this summer, I feel they need to go and find that early to mid-20s quarterback that they can bed in for that year and a half to 2 years, because this team is getting better. People like Chase Young and that on there, Gibson, McLaurin. The only person that doesn't fit for me is the quarterback. Whether they trade up at the draft, whether they go and find somebody in the offseason on a trade, I don't know. I think Washington are fast becoming everybody's second favorite team right now.
Mm-hmm.
They had the name debacle in the summer, which brought them to a lot of people's attention, where they were a no-face team, if you will. They've got Riverboat Ron in charge and his cancer battle, which, thankfully for him and a lot of people, it looks like he's over. So I think they grew a lot of affection in people, and they're now showing that actually they're a very good group of young lads that give their all and can perform.
I've got a question for you. Talking about quarterback and Ron Rivera, Cam Newton's contract's up at the end of the season, if I'm correct. Do you think Ron Rivera will go back to him and get him into Washington?
I think New England
doesn't solve the problem.
Fly him there.
Yeah, but it doesn't solve Washington's problem, does it? Because in 2 to 3 years, with his injury problems and history he's got, he's going to be on the decline. In 2 to 3 years, Washington will be what they'd expect, I think, to be contending. They need a quarterback that can be there then from year 2.5 to 5 to carry that through regularly and consistency.
Can I also just point out, when we're recording this on the Wednesday, around the time is now about 8:45. And the background, I have Pittsburgh versus Baltimore Ravens going on in the background. I've got my iPad next to me with Reddings on, but I've got the Baltimore. I think that the whoever's doing the telly for them is taking the piss, because they keep doing Sunday Night Football as the logo for all the way through it. Anything through it is Sunday Night Football. And I think that's quarterly shithousery for me. Moving on to Houston Texans. I put this question on there because of what I saw and what I got from that game. Can Houston Texans mount a challenge this season? The only reason I put that is because when I look through it and look back, their first four games of the season was Kansas City, Ravens, Steelers, and Vikings. Vikings have dropped off a bit, but the others have sort of stabilized. The last 5 games, they lost to the Packers. They beat the Jags. They beat the Browns. No, they lost to the Browns, sorry. They beat the Pats, and they beat the Lions, who are not a great team. Can they build on those wins that they've won and mount the challenge, or do with Deshaun Watson, or do we think no?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll finish 6-10. I think they've lost to everyone who's got a winning record, haven't they? And they've the teams they've beaten haven't got a winning record. Deshaun Watson is very good, but there's not an awful lot else about them. Obviously, I saw him a couple of weeks ago against the Pats, and we gave him a lot of yards. Just would let him through at times, to be perfectly honest with you. They're one of the better, poorer sides. The reality is they've got the Colts, I think, twice, and they've got the Titans as well, and I think they're going to lose those. So I think they'll finish 6-10.
Okay. Lions. I want to talk about the Lions for a second. They sacked the general manager, Rob, I think it was the day after the game. What are you making of? No, the day after. Sorry, because I think it was on the Friday or the whenever they did that. What are you making of Detroit this year? Do you think they made a mistake sacking their head coach? I think they sacked him in the summer to get this new head coach in, which they normally don't get rid of head coaches mid-season, but they have. What are you making of Detroit this year then?
I think they had a lot of hopes bringing Patricia in there, and they've not. He's been there 2.5 seasons now, and I think the hope was that he was going to start to turn them around and you'd see some improvement. The reality is the last 2 seasons, full seasons, has been there. They've ended up with less than a 500 record, and they're on track for that again at this moment in time. The brutal fact is, I suppose, they've not been a really good team for a very long time, and I think the last won their division in 1993 or something like that. So I was 4 years old, and
do you know Tampa have won that division more time than the Lions?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think, you know, they were hoping that he was going to come in and be able to turn them around. And like I say, they're on track for their third losing record in 3 seasons while he's been there. Obviously, he's not there now for the rest of the third season, but that is not a turnaround and it's not an improvement. And, you know, it's a difficult sport, like all American sports are. When you're in a draft, you know, it depends where you're picking and who's picking in front of you, and are they going to snag a position of need or a player that you want? And, you know, it can go either way. But when you've been there 2.5 seasons, you expect some progress, and they've not had that. So I don't think it's really a surprise. Like I say, they've been bad for a long, long time. So, you know, they need someone to go in there and sort of turn it around, similar to like the Falcons in like a lesser extent. I think we have got the quality in our team, but we need someone to push them forward. I think the Lions need someone to go and, you know, start building a team around as well, and you know, start getting some wins.
It seemed to start okay this year, didn't they? Because they were 3-3, and I mean, 2 of the games they lost to the Saints, good side, and Packers, who've got a good record as well. Also lost to the Bears first up, but you sort of thought after the Falcons game, which they only narrowly won, but you know, they might be able to sort of build on a start which is okay, but they just sort of seem to be blown away. Sort of 3 of the last 4 weeks there, and obviously beat Washington. Well, I haven't seen a lot of them, but it just seems a bit of a strange record looking at the results, really.
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of them either. I know that, you know, when I watched them play the Falcons, I wasn't impressed with them, and I think, you know, that was another game looking back that the Falcons should have won. And yeah, I don't think, you know, I don't think they've particularly been unlucky. I think, you know, I think they're just one of those sides which is just sort of probably lost, and they don't really know where they are, or, you know, are they better than they are, or, you know, I think they're just sort of lost, and they just need someone to go in there and, I don't know, try and find some sort of identity, I guess.
You just got a feel for Matt Stafford, didn't you? Matt Stafford got drafted there and has been given no help whatsoever, and the whole guy's career has just vanished in front of him. He's going to go down as average at best when he could have been good to great, I guess, with the right support unit around him. It's just gone, which is a shame.
So, talking of QBs, I want to talk about one, because Carson Wentz, there's been a lot of talk about him recently. Few people saying that he shouldn't be criticised because of the team that he's got. People saying that it's the team around him, not Carson Wentz, that's been poor this year. But I want to give you guys some ESPN stats, okay? I've done a bit of research here for you guys, so you don't have to do much. So, so this season...
You need to get a hobby, mate.
This is my hobby, young man. It is me entertaining the masses and keeping you lot on your toes is my hobby. And actually quite find this quite fun to do, actually, which is quite sad for me. Is Wentz this season has thrown for 2,541 yards. He has 16 touchdowns this year, but he has 15. He's thrown 15 interceptions this year as well. That's a penalty. Oh, fuck off. 15. Man. Bollocks. 15 interceptions. So let's compare it to other seasons as well. So last season, he threw for 4,000 yards. He got 27 touchdowns and he got 7 interceptions. 2018, he threw it for 3,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2017, he did it for 3,296 yards. He got 33 touchdowns and he got 7 interceptions. And I think the first time he was in the league, which was 2016 with the Philadelphia Eagles, he got 3,782 yards, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So this season alone, and we've still got 6, 7, I think maybe games left of the season, and he has already thrown the most interceptions he's ever done in his career in the NFL. Is he the worst quarterback in the league? Is he the one to blame for for the situation that's going on, or are people being a bit too harsh on him? This is a free fall, so whoever goes first talks.
He's just throwing a Hail Mary, isn't he? But joking aside, his passer rating's dropped, isn't it? He had a 3-year average, I was looking this up earlier, of 98.3. This year it's 73.4. As you know, my best mate's an Eagles fan, and he was telling me, Wentz are poor, but the play calls are poor as well, that the whole offense is a shambles, really. So to put it all on Wentz is quite a difficult thing to do. But so it's clearly not all him, but then him not being very good doesn't help as well. And his feelings, well, actually, the defense are actually okay. It's just the offense and Wentz are poor, and it's just a horrible package, really.
For me, I think they've had a lot of injuries. Zach Ertz went down, Dallas Goedert went down. Wide receiver room was obliterated early on in the season. They're gradually coming back. I haven't mentioned it this pod, and I was going to try not to, but here we go.
Oh.
Their problem this week was running the ball. Wentz led them in rushing with 42 yards. Now, they've got Miles Sanders. So Wentz had 5 rushes for 42. Miles Sanders, their cowbell running back, had 6 rush attempts in the game for 15 yards. If you do not rush the ball, you cannot play the play action. You cannot buy your quarterback time off the back of it. I was adamant I weren't going to talk about it. And you mentioned Carson Wentz, and I looked at the stats literally whilst out here. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Corey Clement had 9 rush attempts between them. 3 backs. You have to run the ball, not to run for success, but to run to open up other stuff. I said it before. So they're lining up at the line of scrimmage. The defense knows he's going to throw it because he has done every other play he's had. Do you know?
But is it a cop out? I'm gonna try and contradict what you just said, because Philadelphia Eagles always have a problem with injuries. I think there's always that. I think since the Super Bowl, there's always been that Philadelphia Eagles. Is it down to them picking players that are just always injury prone? Is it down to that, or is it what? Why do they? Is it the way they're training for them to keep getting injured all the time? Or is it just one of those situations where they're just probably the most unlucky team of getting injuries?
I don't know enough about what they do on a daily basis to really make a definitive decision. Yes, they've got players like Deshaun Jackson, who is predominantly injured throughout his whole career. He's probably been injured more than he's been on the field. And it's a shame because he's a talent when he's on the field. But he's just not on there often enough. But yeah, maybe they do take a punt on a player like that they can pick up for half the cost of somebody that's got that less injury history. And if it works out, great, they've got a winner. And if it doesn't work out, then, they're in the boat they're on right now. So maybe they gamble a bit, and it hasn't been paying off in recent years, I guess.
Rob, what do you think?
Is he the worst quarterback in the NFL? No.
Denver started one this week that no one did, that their own staff hadn't heard of. So.
Yeah, I mean, I had a look. He's 19th in passing yards this season, 15 interceptions, which is the worst in the NFL. The second worst is Drew Lock with 11. So
if they're not running the ball, the linebackers drop off and takes away the space in the coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to pick up on your point as well, Dan. I mean, I think...
Oh, no.
No, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. I think...
Oh, good. Go on then.
As you rightly put it, their wide receivers are obliterated. I think it's a great word, because they are. Like, one comes back and then someone else gets injured and then they get injured again. And, they're real low down the depth chart and practice squad players and stuff like that. And it just seems to me when you're struggling for wide receivers and both your top tight ends have been injured, I didn't realise they ran the ball at the weekend that little. But surely when you're struggling at wide receiver and tight end, you've got to start looking at, well, our top 3 backs are healthy. Maybe we try and run the ball more.
Yeah.
And, rather than trying to throw it to people low down the depth chart or practice squad players.
And it wasn't even situational. They were 0-0 after the first quarter. They were still in that game, 14-6 behind at the second. It wasn't like they were like the Bucs, 17 points behind and had to chase a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're massively behind, you need to get points to throw the ball. If it's 0-0 or it's a close game, then you don't have to throw it as much and be so hopeful. I mean, it's ranking 17th in quarterbacks for touchdowns with 16. Daniel Jones, Cam Newton, and Lamar Jackson both have less passing yards and less touchdown passes. So, they're sort of performing less, if you like. Baker Mayfield has less passing yards, but he has one more touchdown. Like has been said, I think I said on the first podcast as well, I think it's a bit harsh on Wentz when you look at the injuries that they've had and the struggles that they've had. And if he was putting up these numbers and everyone was healthy, it'd definitely be a different argument. I know that I saw something before the season. ESPN they asked coaches and players and did a survey amongst NFL staff and things. And Wentz came out as the number 8 quarterback going into the season. I probably wouldn't have had him up anywhere near that high. But, I think his contract as well, he's in the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, I think. And is he earning that money? No. Is he the best? Is he the worst quarterback in the league? No, I don't think he is. But I think, I don't think he's performing as well as he could, but I don't think the situation's been helped by all the injuries that they've got.
Not going to get any better for them either. I think Green Bay next, New Orleans after that, Arizona as well. So they could well be 3-11-1, and this discussion just keeps going, doesn't it, about Wentz? Because, that's not his fault they're going to lose at least the first 2 of those games. But it's not going to help him either, is it? Really?
So he signed a guaranteed after his contract. He played 3 more years on $26.6 million. But then he just signed a contract extension in 2019 where he's now earning $128 million for that. Is he worth the money he's getting paid? Or because there was a big debate on the First Take, I think it was called, in America, and they were having a massive debate about this. It's the same. I think, is it the same situation as Ezekiel Elliott? Are they producing the numbers that they should be paid for? Do you think when they get draft picks, that's the situation where they're going to go for? What do you think? What do Philadelphia need to do to get better?
I think it's the same as Elliott. They've not got the... I think when you look at the cap space he's going to take up, I don't think they can feasibly get rid of him for the next couple of seasons without hurting themselves. So I think they've got to go with him for the next couple of seasons at least. He's not producing the numbers you'd expect for a quarterback that signed that sort of contract, but it's a weird situation with all their injuries they've had. It's not helped his cause.
Oh, no, perfect. Right, moving on to the Chargers. I want to ask all of your opinion on a quote that was come out with a head coach, Anthony Lynn. He said after the game that the playoff hunt isn't going to happen at this point. At the moment, the Chargers are 3-8 this season. They lost to the Bills last week, 27-17. They still have the Pats, Falcons, Broncos, and Kansas City to happen. I've seen a lot of people criticize what he said because of COVID. They don't know whether there could be a week 18, which could mean that there would be another opportunity for an extra playoff place. They might expand the playoff places this season because of COVID and all this and all of that. Do you think that he's done the right thing and write them off, or do you think he's just shot himself in the foot?
I take nothing into it. It's about managing expectations. You can say things to make it us against the world. You can say things to control how your team feel. You can make them angry, make them fight for it. These people are trained in media. They don't say nothing by accident. He hasn't come out. He may genuinely believe it, which is fine. That's up to him. The bigger issue is why are they in that? Because he can't call a play and can't manage the game clock. That's neither here nor, So if he's ruling about the playoffs, he needs to look at why that's the case. And I think about 85% of that blame actually at the minute is lying at his feet. So maybe he did need to be a little bit more careful. But maybe he has said it to wake a few up in the dressing room, to go out there and prove people wrong. And, you know, I think there's a lot to be said for what people say in the media, and don't take nothing at face value. There's always an agenda to everything. We spoke nothing not that long ago about Mourinho and the way he manipulated certain quotes before certain games, and Brady's handshake, I think, is very similar this year. He's missed a couple of handshakes. He's missed handshakes in the game he's played poorly. People end up on podcasts just like this talking about him not shaking hands rather than talking about his performance. It's not accidental, do you know? And Lynn has come out and said we won't make the playoffs. Whether he sits then the very next morning in his team meeting and goes, yeah, I did say that, prove me wrong. It's on you guys now. Show me I'm wrong. Because
he said in the full quote, I listened to the full quote before I come on here, and he said, I sat down with them after that game and told them they're not good enough, and we probably won't get the playoffs, and we won't do that. So, and that surprised me for a head coach, that there's so many variables that could happen to do that. But with what you said, Dan, I think you're completely and utterly correct. What do you both think, Fred and Rob?
I think you look at their run as well. Two things. Obviously, if he's telling the truth and that's genuinely how he feels, he's probably not wrong, really. But ultimately, look at the next 4 games. They're all quite winnable, aren't they? Patriots, Falcons, Raiders and Broncos.
Whoa, Falcons.
So I think, but, you know, my gut feeling, he said that to, you know, kick these guys up the arse and say, look, you know, put up or shut up, really. That's pretty much my read of it, really.
Yeah, I think like Dan and Fred have both said, like, what he says to the media and what he said behind closed doors are two different things. And, you know, he could be saying the complete opposite behind closed doors. He could be saying the same thing. The only people that know what he said behind closed doors are the people that are behind it. And I think, you know, Chauvel played Football Manager, and how you can press the button, which, like, the angry words to try and inspire a reaction in your team. And, you know, that might have been part of it. It might have been angry the way they've been performing, and it might have just been emotion, or he might have been thinking, you know, I'll go out and say this and you know, try and provoke a reaction from them. And, you know, I think, you know, what Dan and Fred have said, you know, says it all, really.
Perfect. Right, let's move on to prediction time. Before we get to prediction, I need to remember the last week's, because I might have just lost it. Great work, Mark. Fucking marvellous. Where the fuck?
Just quickly, is anybody watching the Ravens-Steelers game?
I've got it on, and I just saw what happened.
They have covered the ball in butter before going out and playing, by the look of it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I just
Ravens
saw it.
Fumbled. Steelers drove down to the goal line, intercepted. The very next play, Ravens intercepted for a defensive touchdown. And then the kickoff back to the Steelers has been muffed, and Ravens have picked it up inside the red zone on the other side. So there's been 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles in the first quarter.
It's been an interesting game. I see it in the background. It's been a bit mental at the moment. Right, so last week, let's go through last week before we go on to this week. Last week, all of us, apart from Fred, picked the Cowboys to win, and the Washington won. I said Tennessee would win. You lot put the Colts. Nah. We all got the Giants correct. We all said they would win. And Fred said the Panthers. We all said the Vikings. So the overall score so far in this table is Rob and Fred are both on 2. Dan and myself are on 3. And I even chalked one off because you lot said I was cheating. So
you're right to.
Not that I was bitter or anything. But I've got some very uncomfortable games that I picked for everyone as well. So the games that I picked for everyone this week are the Titans at the Browns, LA Chargers at the Cardinals, Detroit at Chicago, and the Colts versus Houston Texans. So I've already picked mine because I've done it here and I've got the graphic here. So I'll go first. For the very first one that we'll talk about is the Titans versus the Browns. I've gone Titans. Rob, who are you going for?
I'm going Titans as well. I think both teams have a strong run game. Browns have got a strong run defense. But I don't think, if I was placing a bet, I'd be betting on the Browns. They've won the last 3 games, barely. Jags, Eagles, Texans by, not more than 3 or 4 points. So I think it's going to be dominated by the run game, but I think the Titans will win.
Okay, then. Fred, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm going Titans as well. There's very little research actually into this, so I ran out of prep time towards the end of or the beginning of this podcast, so I've just gone Titans.
No, right. Dan?
I've gone Titans, and I can't wait. I love a run game. Don't know if you guessed. Derrick Henry versus Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's going to be like 80s football, mate. They are just going to run at each other. It's going to be great fun.
Okay, then. The next up, we've got Chargers versus Cardinals. Dan, I'm going to go to you.
We've got Rams against Cardinals.
All right. My bad.
Rams. Kyler Murray isn't fully fit. I think he showed that against the Patriots. Rams defense can stop teams scoring points and just about put up enough. Rams for me.
Okay, then. And Rob?
Rams for me as well. I think it was a close game to call. The Rams have lost to a pretty banged up 49ers last week, and the Cardinals offense is like slowing down slightly due to this shoulder injury that Kyler Murray is carrying. So I did sort of struggle because I don't think you could probably count out a Kyler Murray bounce back, but I've gone for the Rams.
I have gone for the Cardinals because I don't know. I just went, Cardinals, go for it. That's literally how I do my predictions. Fred, I'm going to go for you.
Yeah, I've also gone Rams. Obviously, I saw the Cardinals last week.
I'm going to extend my lead even more.
All of a sudden, Murray's going to have a fine shoulder and we, all made to look silly. But no, again, Murray's limited. That limits the Cardinals, obviously. And I think the Rams will capitalise on that. I
can't wait for the Cardinals to win now. Lions, the Bears, Chicago. Who haven't I gone to? Fred, I don't think I got to you first yet. Who you gone for?
Gone for Bears.
Oh, okay. No.
Good prediction, Fred.
Thank you.
Which means he's gone for the Lions, I bet. Rob, I'm going to go for you with that comment now.
No, just because it was just straight to the point, really. I think, there's
not a lot to be said on that one, is there?
No, what I'm predicting is a pretty terrible game. I think the Bears have lost 5 on the bounce. The Lions have lost the last 5 meetings with the Bears. The Lions sacked their coach. The Bears have got Trubisky coming back in at QB. I think it's just going to be a terrible game, really. But I have gone for the Bears.
Dan?
I've gone Bears purely because I think the defense is good enough to stop a poor Lions offense.
Do you know what? I did go for Bears, but I'm so tempted to change that just because everyone else has gone for it. I'm going to stick with it. Oh, no, I'm not, because we all went for Titans. No, I've decided I am now becoming a Detroit fan for that game. I'm going for the Lions. I think they're going to, purely on guesswork, I think they're going to get rejuvenated by a new coach, new general manager, and they're going to go fuck it in a bucket and go and win. So that's how I'm going to go for it. Last one. We got the Colts. Houston. I'm going to go for... I've gone for Houston to win this. I don't know why. The Texans. I don't know why. I've just gone Texans. So that's how I do it. And Dan, I'm going to go to you first.
I think before the news this week, it was probably very tight. Deshaun Watson, for me, is probably a top 5 quarterback. Will Fuller had a great game in the week. We now know why. He was dosed up to the nines. They've lost Bradley Roby at corner, probably their starting corner, for exactly the same reason. So losing the corner and your best receiver, yeah, Colts for me. It's a tough enough game with them two on the pitch. Without them, impossible.
Fuck, I didn't know any of this. This could be fuckery.
Unless the rest of them have all picked up the PEDs and away we go.
Oh, bloody, I really bloody. Do you know what? I'm hoping they have now.
There'll be some spare.
Just everyone go round. Everyone have a bit. Rob.
Yeah, I've gone Colts as well. I said last time I predicted the Colts that I like them both sides of the ball, and then they gave up over 400 yards to the Titans. But I still do like them both sides of the ball, and Will Fuller doing PEDs, the best wide receiver this season, and that's obviously going to hurt them as well. So I think Colts.
Oh fuck. Fred, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I can't say what I said earlier and then back the Texans, so I'm going to have to back Colts as well. Even before what happened this week, they haven't beaten a team with a winning record, and the Colts are a decent side. So I can't see any other result in that one.
Well, I think I might be on a losing streak this week. We'll see how it goes. But thank you ever so much, everyone, for coming on. It's been a fantastic episode, and thank you ever so much for all three of you for coming on. There is 20 minutes left of the Reading game. Still fucking 1-1 that I got here. So everyone, go and enjoy your weekend. We will put these predictions out for everyone as well on Sunday. So go, please interact. Tell us what you guys think, where you think what's going to happen, what you think is going to win each game as well. And we will do that as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.
See ya.